So, first things first, who are you? What's your role? And where do you work?
First of all, thank you for having me on the program, Bart, and it's great to speak with you. Hi, my name is Arshad Syed. I'm a co-founder and chief business officer for StackGen. StackGen is a generative infrastructure company focused on autonomous cloud deployments, and we are based in the Silicon Valley.
And what do you want to share today?
Oh, Bart, we are very excited to announce StackGen's automated cloud-to-cloud migration platform. StackGen streamlines the entire process of cloud discovery, mapping to the target cloud. A full automated migration of detailed attributes and variables, and finally, a full comprehensive security risk and compliance enforcement. We're able to deliver upwards of 80% automation in a cloud to cloud scenario based on our experiences doing this for clients. And our platform is able to eliminate errors, reduce costs, and ensure compliance across all the major cloud providers: AWS, Azure, GCP, OpenShift, Civo. And with comprehensive visibility into dependencies at each resource level, StackGen is helping enterprises move across cloud environments in literally a matter of hours and days and not months.
Now, what problem does the cloud to cloud migration platform solve?
That's a very good question. Now, to understand that a little bit, let's first of all understand the context of the cloud world. Today, cloud-to-cloud migrations are increasing in volume as businesses are seeking optionality and fit-for-purpose target environments. And with AI coming in, it's only accelerating the trend. So far, cloud migrations have been quite tiring, manual in nature, as one has to try and navigate from one closed ecosystem of a cloud provider to another. So migrating between cloud providers can feel like a never-ending puzzle. You're trying to do manual resource discovery, complex scripting, configuration mismatches, and these things slow down teams quite dramatically and frankly introduce a lot of risk. And this has been one of the learnings we have found from many of our clients. In fact, one of our clients shared with us their story that it took them over 9 months to migrate from one cloud provider to another, and it was quite painful. Now, traditional approaches have led to prolonged timelines, higher costs, and security gaps, making cloud transitions more painful than they should be. And with our migration platform, StackGen addresses that problem right head on.
Could you share the before and after this product announcement?
Sure. So before StackGen, cloud migration was a very slow and tedious process. And let me walk you through what really generally was the approach taken by everybody. Now, imagine your team wants to migrate workloads from Azure to AWS or AWS to GCP or whatever the cloud environments might be. The process starts with manually discovering resources. Now, this is in fact a big task as most client environments have evolved over a period of time. They've done a lot of ClickOps, console-based operations. They have lost control on knowing the full breadth and depth of their cloud architecture at a granular resource level. Now, this is the first barrier most teams will run into. The second issue that teams run into is they have to now map configurations and write extensive scripts to recreate the infrastructure from one cloud environment to a totally new environment. Now, most clients typically tend to have built capabilities in the source environment because that's what they have been working on for a long time. Now, when the decision is made to move to the target environment, they typically don't tend to have the capabilities on the target environment. Now, sometimes they may then use external consulting firms or systems integrators, but still it becomes a much more of a complex program. The third element is compliance and governance policies also need to migrate and get reapplied. And that needs was typically done in a very manual fashion. And in fact, with one particular client who was doing this manually, they realized there were a lot of gaps, and their custom policies had to be recreated in their new target environment, right? Which increases the risk of misconfigurations, over provisioning of IAM policies, attributes missing from one resource to the other. Now, each step takes weeks, sometimes even months, delaying the go lives and frustrating customers and draining engineering resources. And typically, these projects are running in parallel to day-to-day living of the environment, right? You got to continue to serve the business, you got to continue to support the business while you're trying to migrate from one cloud to the other cloud. In fact, we were working with some of the solution architects from one of the largest cloud providers, and we have learned that they take at least 2 to 3 months just to do discovery and assessment, then another 3 to 4 months of mapping manually from the source cloud to the destination cloud. And then another couple of months just spinning up the new architecture in the target cloud, getting it tested and actually deploying that. Now, with StackGen, we have been able to completely automate seamlessly and compress these timelines significantly. So let me talk a little bit about StackGen. So StackGen's new cloud-to-cloud infrastructure platform automates significant part of this migration journey. We have four distinct components of our platform. The first one is cloud to code, and this addresses the discovery of the source cloud paradigm. Our platform scans and automatically generates a blueprint of the source cloud with all the details of the resources at the most granular levels, with the attributes, dependencies, IAM policies, everything is actually extracted. And then comes the second component, which we call the Infra Composer, which is essentially a beautiful dynamic visual canvas where we show you both the source cloud architecture and the target cloud architecture side by side. And you do this on a no-code visual canvas. You can do drag and drop. You can actually, pull new resources. You can do connections, completely automated manner on that Infra Composer. And the moment and we auto-generate, by the way, the target cloud architecture, the moment the source cloud architecture is scanned. And then the third component is we have a policy engine inbuilt into the platform. Now, this policy engine has over 300 plus industry, standard, best in class security, risk, and compliance policies that we automatically apply on all the resources and the attributes. And we have covered everything from NIST, SOC 2, GDPR, CCPA, FedRAMP, and many more are instantly applied. And the good news is you can also bring in your custom policies because a lot of organizations over the period of time have built their own compliance policies. So you can actually bring that in. Now, the interesting piece that we have developed thanks to some of our clients who helped us build this is we also show the user how to remediate the gaps and violations in the canvas itself. So we actually show them that, look, here are some violations. You need to go fix it. And here is the route to fix it. And they go click on a few things and the compliance is 100%. Then the fourth component we have is a full automated deployment lifecycle management. So this component helps the users auto-generate the entirely new cloud, deploy it into their existing CD pipeline, or fit it into their Git Actions workflow seamlessly. The one thing I would call out, Bart, is that migrating across closed and proprietary ecosystems is never going to be 100% perfect. You're never going to get a full match from one cloud to the other cloud. So there is going to be 5, 10, 15% anomalies that you're going to see because AWS does not handle storage the same way Azure handles it. Or there are some resources, the way GCP has it, AWS may not have it. So what we do is we, on the visual canvas, give the users or the clients optionality. We tell them, look, here are the decisions you need to make for the 10, 15% gaps that there are there. Or here are some choices you have that you can pick when you're migrating from this cloud to the other cloud. So finally, what we would say is, here are the benefits when you use StackGen as a platform. We cut down the cycle time from months down to literally days or weeks for migrations, depending on the number of workloads. Engineers no longer have to waste time troubleshooting migration errors or think about or learn the target cloud. They can actually do this without knowing much about the target cloud at all. Third, governance is built in at source and applied. Fourth, there are no gaps and everything has a traceability and an auditability factored into the platform, and that gives you really a lot of comfort, frankly. And the best thing I think I love is that you have a fully comprehensive blueprint of your new cloud on day one. You're not trying to create something manually and then trying to stitch it up and then trying to figure out what your blueprint is. You start with a comprehensive blueprint of your cloud architecture at every layer that you can continue to evolve, and StackGen can be your day two platform as well. Hope that helps.
Definitely does. Now, is StackGen's cloud-to-cloud migration platform open source and part of the CNCF landscape?
Well, currently we are not open source and but we definitely are big fans of the CNCF landscape, and we are working on some ideas. And hopefully we'll have more to share in the coming months.
And what's StackGen's business model?
So today we offer an enterprise version with all of our premium features for collaborating within and across the teams. We have workflow built in, and everything is available to our clients for a flat licensing fees. In terms of hosting the platform, you can host it on premise or as a single tenant SaaS if it's a dedicated SaaS, or you want to do FedRAMP, or you can do a multi-tenant SaaS as well. At the same time, for individual developers, we also have a sandbox available where they can go on stackgen.com, build it for themselves, play around with it, and we typically have it limited to one user per organization. Currently, we are given that we are working on multiple migration programs, and this is been a big success for us. We are running a special program for this quarter for new clients. So if any one of your audience is interested, they can reach out to us.
And who are StackGen's main competitors?
From a competition standpoint, I mean, there are a few players that operate at the infrastructure layer, like Matilda and Trians, but they really focus only on helping migrate or set up compute and storage. But they do not operate at the application layer, which is the bulk of the effort that goes into cloud migrations. So we provide an end-to-end migration platform across the entire OSI stack. And then there are some other players like Ankara.io and AMPT that also provide similar capabilities.
And what are some of the key differentiating points between StackGen and some of those other competitors?
Well, I would say first and foremost, we are the most comprehensive end-to-end automated cloud migration platform. I think the second thing what clients are telling us is they like the fact that we meet clients where they are. And what I mean by that is we support all of the tools across the value chain, from clients' Git repos, GitLab, Bitbucket, GitHub, to their CI/CD tools, Argo CD, Jenkins, and others. And we have tons of integrations with all of the ecosystem tools that typically most clients use. So the clients do not have to change in terms of bringing us in. So we land very seamlessly in terms of how they operate. The third thing I would say is the learning curve is very low to minimal, given that we have built this no-code visual canvas we call the Infra Composer for the migration. So DevOps or platform teams and developers love it because they can instantly, intuitively, without even knowing the target cloud, get up and running very, very quickly in a matter of hours. The next thing would be no manual scripting. You do not have to write and manage infrastructure code. We auto-generate to the best-in-class golden paths and golden standards. And I would say finally, it would be the full resource discovery and dependency mapping. And of course, the built-in compliance and governance, right? We ensure consistent security policies, regulatory compliance during migration. So we eliminate drift and misconfigurations, a critical gap in many computing solutions. And I would say finally, what we are seeing today, we are able to bring down migration lead times by a significant factor, almost to the tune of 8 to 10x reduction in the amount of time taken to migrate.
Now, a couple of bonus questions I just want to throw out there.
Sure.
In terms of paradigm shifts, we've heard about multi-cloud now for a bit, but a term that I'm coming across more and more is often is cloud agnostic. To you, is that something that's coming up? Is it really a thing? What does it mean to you?
Actually, that's a very good question you brought up. In fact, we are working with one of the largest software platform companies in the world, and they do want to get into a cloud agnostic kind of an approach. And I'll tell you where it's coming from. There are 2 or 3 use cases. One is if you're a software company and more because of data residency reasons, governments are requiring that data be resident locally in regions. Now, if you're managing 16 regions, now this particular client of ours manages their software product across 16 regions, and they want to be able to do that without having to recreate and manually manage across 16 regions. Now that's one challenge. We have another client, who came to us and said, "Look, I have to deploy across GCP, AWS, and Azure, and sometimes I do it on premise, sometimes I do it on the cloud, and every time I'm doing this manually, so I have this sprawl of instances that I'm managing. I want to be cloud agnostic. Is there a way I can deploy once and then the system takes care of it and in terms of deploys it across the cloud?" So I think there are very fundamental use cases, and I think we are heading towards that as more and more enterprises choose multiple cloud options and they want the ability to sort of switch out cloud providers. They want to move to this cloud agnostic model. We are not there today, Bart, but I'll tell you where I see early signs. For For example, Backstage, if you're using an IDP like Backstage, now we integrate into Backstage, they have a system component model. Now, if you have a well-defined system component model, that could become an abstraction layer to help you, to some degree today, be cloud agnostic, right? We are also actually working, and very soon we'll have an ability to have a framework or a blueprint that you can sort of deploy to, and that blueprint will then automatically deploy it across 2 or 3 clouds based on the nuances of those particular clouds. But I think we are moving in that direction. I think clients want to be cloud agnostic. They want to remove this friction. They don't want to be locked into one vendor for a variety of reasons. I think there are regulatory pressures coming in, business pressures coming in, regionalization, redundancy, data, disaster recovery, a lot of business issues forcing clients to go towards being cloud agnostic. But I think we are probably another maybe year, 2 years away from that. But I think we will get there pretty soon.
Another question that we've asked previously to different podcast guests is, what's easier to learn, multi-cloud or surfing? And you wouldn't be surprised about how many people say surfing. With that in mind, if someone is going to be taking a multi-cloud approach, what is your number one piece of advice saying, if you're going to do this, if you can only do one thing, if you can only really start with one thing or really take one thing to heart, what's that one thing going to be?
I think, picking up in your thread, surfing is probably easier to learn, but I think multi-cloud is becoming easier for sure. I think it's going to get easier and easier. StackGen got into the multi-cloud world because our clients took us there. We actually started somewhere else. We haven't spoken about a lot of the other comprehensive capabilities we have in the use cases we serve. But in a multi-cloud world, I think what's going to be important is an ability to be, what I like to call harmonized in your architecture. So the ability to keep your architectures as harmonized as possible. You will never be 100% because business pressures, evolution is going to force you to adapt a little bit differently across regions, across cloud providers to some degree, and the cloud providers want to create moats so they are proprietary. So there is going to be some level of diffusion there, but a concerted effort at a central team level, at the platform team level, or the DevOps team levels to make sure that at least they have an annual exercise to harmonize what they have across the multi-cloud infrastructure is going to become more and more important going forward. And in platform, just like StackGen or something else that helps them anchor that in, gives them a visibility of how much of harmonization exists and how much of diffusion exists is going to be a very key, because as you release cycles go up thanks to Gen AI, I mean, think about it, Bart. Today, if you're using Cursor as a developer, your productivity is up 50, 60, 70%, right? But deployments are still very slow and manual and tedious. And I think that's going to change. The power is going to shift to the left to the developers. And developers would want to deploy multiple times a day if they're ready. Now, in that world, if the clouds are not harmonized, you're going to have a massive problem, because the problems will come at you from any angle, and you won't be ready to solve it. Or you'll have to lock it down so much that the developers will be completely handcuffed. And you don't want that, because they are the most premium commodity for you, and you want to be unleashing their potential, not locking them down. So I think in the multi-cloud world, harmonization, and harmonized fabric or a model, whatever word you want to use, is going to be critical. Does that make sense?
That works great. Well, Arshad, thank you so much for your very thoughtful and well-developed answers today. Look forward to seeing what's happening with StackGen next. Take care. We'll speak soon.
Thanks a lot, Bart. I really appreciate it.